In the appointments by the Deputy Head of Public Service and Deputy Secretary to Cabinet, Deborah Katuram, former Director in charge of Legal Affairs at KCCA, Frank Rusa, has been appointed the Executive Director, Kampala Capital City Authority. Rusa takes over from Dorothy Kisaka, who was sacked for mismanagement of Chitezi, resulting in a disaster that has left 35 people dead.
Frank Rusa, you can stand up. You can face those people. So Frank Rusa is the acting tentatively in Executive Director's office.
During the execution of his duties, Rusa will be required to write quarterly reports to the Head of Public Service and the Secretary to the Cabinet, a copy of which should be sent to the line minister. Noah Robert, who has been serving as Director of Revenue Collection at KCCA, has been appointed Deputy Director, replacing Engineer Luyimbazi David. Also appointed is Sarah Zalwango Karen as Director of Public Health, who replaces Dr. Okello Daniel.
So we are yet to announce in case of any changes, but according to us, we thought those were the right people. And selected depending on their credibility and their service record.
All the appointments are in acting capacity and will serve until substantive official. In the appointment.
Good morning to you and thank you for keeping it NBS Television. You're watching NBS Media Roundtable, where we bring you senior journalists to look into the key issues happening in the country. And this time around, we shall be focusing on what has been transpiring at the Kampala Capital City Authority in the council, and also the issues surrounding Chitezi and how the top officials of KCCA were sacked by the president. That will be key to our discussion. As also we will later on look into the Jerome Hall's stance and on the presidential bid that he had earlier declared, recalling it at this particular time and endorsing his father. The more that he engages in the political affairs as he remains the serving soldier that he is, those will be central to the discussion here. And joining me on the panel this morning, a senior journalist who I am glad to host and also have a conversation with. Just on my extreme right is Peter Chibazo, who has been here for quite a long time, and he has been able to see and understand most of the political events and how they unfold. Some of those key that we have not been able to watch, but he has been party to. A very good morning to you.
Good morning to you. Glad to be here. Make sure we have coffee today.
We will be glad to give it to you. It will be coming in shortly. Thank you very much for joining us.
And I'm happy to be sitting in with Solomon, but it's a bit of a lonely space. I hope more people are coming.
the space at the top.
They will also buy coffee after. The rule is, after, when you come late for the show, you buy us coffee after.
After
at
one.
a restaurant of our choice.
That's okay. after one. Solomon.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be back home and humbled to sit next to my senior colleague. Mr. Chibazo, I honor you. Thank you very much for the work that you have done in the journalism space. And I'm not even worthy to untie your shoelaces.
Oh my
so
God. No, thank you.
I am grateful
No,
to be on the same show with him. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I want to draw your attention first to what has been transpiring in the course of the week, but the latest events of the Kampala Capital City Authority, how the report of the IGG that many of us have not been able to see, except what the Deputy IGG, Dr. Patricia Chan, had to reveal to us in the media. But the report that led to the sacking of Dorothy Kisaka as the Executive Director, the Deputy Luyimbazi, and also the Head of Public Health, Okello, at the Kampala Capital City Authority over negligence, and then the commissioning of the investigations by CID. But also we know very much that State House Anti-Corruption Unit is equally carrying out investigations into the Kampala Capital City Authority. Peter Chibazo, I want to understand from you how you received the events of the sacking, how since the appointments have happened.
How did I receive the events? I don't know. At some point I expected that there would be a gun drawn at Dorothy Kisaka and Luyimbazi, certainly. However, along the last about 1 month, I thought Dorothy had survived. And there were factors totally unrelated to KCCA that I was looking at. And I thought, finally, Dorothy has mastered a bit of politics, and she's able to crest this wind. Unfortunately, it looks like the decision had been made. Dorothy, for the past, and this is light, this isn't related to KCCA, for the past about 1 month, she has represented the First Lady 3 times at different functions.
On different events.
Yes. And for me, a very lay watcher of our politics, I said, if this is blackjack play, she has the king and the queen in her card set. She's represented the First Lady at different functions. And I was like, wow, now Dorothy has her mojo right. That's why I felt, I've been pulled the wrong side. Because I thought with that,
She had survived it.
home and dry. Now, the sacking itself was always coming away from this. Because Dorothy was a mistake appointment at KCCA. When Dorothy was set to be appointed the first time, her name was not in any of the pots of she is being appointed. You need to, she's not a politician, one. You're a CEO of KCCA that is heavily a political institution. She isn't a politician. She's a typical public servant, old school, tick the box, don't antagonize anyone, carry on.
Which could insult KCCA.
Nah. So initially, her name didn't come into the pot. A certain name came and whiffed around the Kampala elite. If Solomon will remember, Amanda Ngabirano was sort of the people's peak, the elite peak. And there was almost a given that she had it until COVID happened. When COVID happened, Honorable Rugunda, Right Honorable, appointed Dorothy to be secretary of the committee that was coordinating the COVID activities, and that threw Dorothy into the ambit of Plot 1 Nsamizi in Entebbe. A few days that they interacted, the big man was looking for a decent person and thought, wait a minute, this girl is actually good. And bang. A bit of history, she's the daughter of a former member of parliament of NRM that was acquainted with the president, but that didn't matter. It's actually COVID that granted her this. When she did her first 3 years, she didn't scatter the table. She didn't even scratch the table. She didn't annoy Lukwago, at least to make news. She wasn't in a fight with the vendors. She wasn't in a fight with the politicians. She was nowhere. You didn't feel the energy. I'm not saying it's bad. I think she was a very decent woman, unfortunately, for where she was. So, her deputy, Luyimbazi, formerly of UNRA, seemed to be the focus of everyone. When they were appointed, everyone was like, not Luyimbazi.
But it had come.
Yes. You know, it's a shocker. You're thinking, really? Luyimbazi, of UNRA, of Katosi. Really? And yes, it was. And Luyimbazi, when he settled in, he took charge. For the first 3 years, he rode the ship. Dorothy was a decent person. They brought the papers. She signed. She was advised. She continued. So the ship raced. At the end of their first 3 years, the president did not renew their contract for a while. People at KCCA started jostling for the position. I'm giving it a bit of background. So they started jostling for the position. A number of people started even lobbying. The minister, the state minister for Kampala, Chofa Togabye, went around whispering loudly to everyone that cared to listen that Dorothy is done. Luimbazi is done. We have another person coming. That time I didn't hear the names. Eventually I heard the names. That's why I was very interested when you were talking about the agencies that are investigating cases here. And I was saying, One of the names that came is also a female, a lady. I'm acquainted to them. I bumped into them and asked, are you coming to KCCA? And said, oh, brother, it's done. I said, really? Yes, it's finished. Mzee has made the decision. And I'm like, wow. Okay, left it at that. They hung in there. They waited, I think 5 months. I'm not very sure. Anderson or Solomon could know how long it took, but about, I think, 5 months. No contract. They were working. Then a prayer session happened at State House. After the prayer session, I want to believe by mistake, but I'm not very sure. So many things happened by mistake around the president. Somehow Dorothy hangs around after the prayer session, and as she's leaving, she bumps into the president.
By mistake? Not in any way.
She was part of the prayer session. And they talked. And the president rethought his position, gave her an appointment, met, she cried. They had a long talk. And in that talk, the president changed the management, the supervision, or added a layer to the supervision of KCCA. And that is part of the confusion at City Hall. Previously, the ED was appointed by the president as he appointed Jennifer, and they were supervised by the Minister for Kampala. You will note that now, for Kisaka's second term, there was a second layer. The Secretary to Cabinet and Head of Public Service is Dorothy's supervisor. And that was because in that meeting with the president, Dorothy cried about the ministers. Instead of helping me, they are hounding me, they are hunting me, they are giving you all these manner of reports. So he says, these ones are not going to supervise you anymore. He put it in a letter. In her letter of reappointment, he moves her to traditional public service or civil service, as it were. Adds a layer, confusion completely. So she goes, she thinks this is it, and then damn. You do not think that the people that set out for a fight previously had gone to bed. They may have lost a single battle, but they were still at war. Then Chitezi happens. Chitezi is tragic, it is unfortunate, it is what? But Chitezi was always coming. Chitezi should have been decommissioned at Jennifer's time. It wasn't. So it was always a pantomime, and it happened. And Dorothy swallowed the bullet. If you ask me, I think she was in the wrong place. She should never have been ED of Kampala. She could have been anywhere else doing work, and she would have been unscattered. You would never even know her. I think a lot of people, until she was appointed ED of Kampala, did not know that Dorothy Chisaka existed. So, poor woman, her simplicity. The only one that had presence was her deputy. Maybe in her second term, she'd gained a bit of confidence. She stepped into spaces a bit and was greeting a few more people. Her deputy was street smart. I want to end it at that.
Thank you very much. Joining us on the show is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago. Anderson, a very good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me.
You phoned us midway the discussion. Solomon,
breakfast.
Solomon, I want to understand what you pick out of the events at KCCA and up to today, the appointments that have been made?
Well, I really thank my brother for laying the ground very well. You know, when you are in a managerial position, you just don't wake up and sack people, right? There must have been a build-up. You can't wake up because of one instance and say, I have fired you. The President Museveni, I know, does not act on emotions. I mean, think about it. It has been what? How many? Like a month after Chitezi?
Since Chitezi.
For people who are, like, when something happens and they're angry, they would say, you're fired immediately. In the heat of the moment, they will sack you. President Museveni did not do that. Typical of him, he says, you know, IGG look into this issue. The IGG investigates, presents a report to him. Perhaps the IGG made a recommendation to sack Dorothy. But my really deep feeling is that it cannot be because of Chitezi. I am sure that President Museveni knows very well that Chitezi was supposed to be decommissioned, I think back in 2015. There have been several reports that have been presented. I had an opportunity of interviewing Lukwago, the Lord Mayor, on the Hard Questions show. And he said, we have tabled these issues before the council and before the executive director. We have come up with proposals that we start manufacturing. You know, we get an investor and we go into electricity production, and we have argued that the investor wanted to at least have the unit cost for the power at, I think it was what, $10, but the president had the offer of $5. And they brought on 5 cents, 5 cents. And then they said, we brought these proposals before the president refused. Meanwhile, we don't have any other place to dump the garbage. The president has traveled all across the world and visited different cities. And I'm sure he has also taken interest in the way they manage their waste. Do we want to believe that the president did not know what was happening in Chitezi? He clearly knows that we do not have a waste management system. He knows we have been dumping. Several proposals have been tabled before him about the situation in Chitezi. He understands it very well. And yet he kept quiet about the issue. There have been proposals that have been presented before him. He knows what has been happening. The whole country does not have a waste management system. So, like, please stop fooling us that you don't know what was happening. You clearly know what was happening. You wake up in the morning and say, oh, because KCCA did not do anything, I am sacking the executive director. I'm sacking the deputy.
It's not because they didn't do anything. They are guilty of negligence. They are guilty. Oh, you've read the script.
Okay, negligence. I mean, think about that. You sack the executive director, you sack the deputy, you sack the director of public health, who has presented a report, a detailed report in closed door meeting saying Chitezi was a calamity in waiting. It was, I know Okello has been presenting this issue before them. Even when they bought the extra 4 acres in Chitezi to expand the landfill, Mr. Okello has presented that it is not going to happen. And he proposed several recommendations, and there are reports to this effect. And these recommendations have actually been on the table of Dorothy Chisaka and the entire technical team, and I'm sure that these recommendations have even in the past been put in the budget, but they have been put out. Until when that happened, boom.
What do they call it? Unfunded priorities.
Unfunded priorities. Then now we are running around like headless chickens to look for, going back to the proposals. We're looking for dump sites. We're saying we need to get an investor in. The president knew exactly about the challenge that we had as a country, that we did not have a proper waste management system. Does that therefore warrant the sacking of the executive director, the deputy, and the director of public health? Maybe there's a bigger thing that we are not seeing. Maybe there is bigger context to it. And I think it goes back to what Mr. Chibazo was saying, that, you know, perhaps the time lag between renewing the contract, the president wasn't very sure about this lady's performance. I mean, when you look at, for example, the potholes in the city, you're looking at the trade order in the city, you're looking at how things are going. And maybe at one moment, the president must have sat in his chair like, I wish I had left Jennifer Musisi. Because Jennifer Musisi did something. Jennifer Musisi stood up against Lukwago. Jennifer Musisi went and did all these things. I mean, they were at loggerheads with Lukwago, but at least you'd see some work being done. So whether the president was right on sacking Dorothy Chisaka or not, I don't know why he did that. I actually do not know. I actually do not know. Because, I mean, when you put politics to it, we know Dorothy Chisaka was with Muhoozi Kainerugaba.
Was she?
They were inspecting
during
roads.
the works of the
You remember
SFC
the works of
on the
SFC?
potholes.
Muhoozi had been instructed by the president.
As what?
As
Special operations. You know that very well. But we saw Dorothy Chisaka moving around the city with Muhoozi Kainerugaba, having several meetings, you know, perhaps laying out a strategy on how we were going to fix the city roads and all that. Did that rub the president the wrong way?
Nah.
Maybe not. Well, again, I'm just trying to think really around, but I think those are my 2 cents to that.
For Chitez has not been looked at as that much a key question for the leadership at KCCA, much as it brought about negligence, as has been said. I want to understand from you, as a president who has been a supervisor to ministers of Kampala, those that lie under his docket, is he entirely right to pronounce an action at the end of this all when there are still questions from the people in Kitezi, those that are not seeing their children, those that are still looking for their parents down in the dump site? Is this enough that he's sacking individuals today when there's a solution that has not been offered? He is still looking at that.
You want to be seen as a head of state who is taking action. But, you know, you want to tell people, I'm sorry this happened in my administration, and I'm trying to show that I have done something about it. But do we think that that is really the sole reason of the president sacking? Of course, I know the government was saying they're going to compensate the people. And when a time of calamity comes or a disaster comes, a government must be seen doing something to weep with the people. That's why when we have landslides, government tries to, you know, get a place where they are staying. That's why they're giving them blankets. That's why they're giving them food. That's why they're giving them money. You want to be seen as that government. But this is why I'm not totally convinced about the president's decision to sack Dorothy Chisaka that was entirely on Chitezi and the negligence. When buses collide on the road, 2 buses collide, boom, people die. Over 40, 50 people die. You would have expected that in the same spirit, the president would sack Katumba Amala as Minister for Transport. You'd expect that the president would have sacked, in these different calamities or different catastrophes, the president would have sacked the entire administration. Right from his cabinet. I mean, if we are to hold the president accountable, then the Minister of Kampala should be fired as well. Even the president himself should resign for that, because everything is under you. You see, you know what I mean? So I'm just asking myself, is Chitezi enough justification to sack the executive director, or is there more than meets the eye in the sacking of Dorothy Chisaka?
Thank you, Solomon. Anderson, what is your 2 cents about?
Well, I'll begin by saying what has been done is too little, too late. Too little in the sense that when you look at the situation at KCCA and going by what we have had, it's actually a bigger mess. And this mess, I think, does not manifest only at KCCA, but it's a bigger problem. It's a bigger problem in the entire workings of the government system. You know, first of all, when the central government took a decision to take over Kampala, capital city, there was that strong argument that this is the mirror of our country to the entire world. The people who were running the city at that time were messing up, and that there was need to give the city that new outlook to get that image that befits a city of the Pearl of Africa. So they said we no longer want this situation where the mayor directly controls the money, and there was supposed to be a paradigm shift, and indeed they did what they did. But at the center of it all is the fact that the government has not been true to the promises that it made. And this is reflected by the level of funding at KCCA, but also not only the level of funding, even the caliber of people who are deployed there and how they actually arrived at. So you have a situation where we have heard from the Lord Mayor Erias Lukwago, who I must somehow describe as one of the luckiest politicians in Uganda, because most of the things he talks about have actually happened. You know, he talks about lack of funding. He provides you this detailed analysis of what is missing in schools, garbage collection, road works. He tells you this is the amount of money we need in the budget. This is what we are being given. And you can clearly see there's no lack of commitment. Because if you're going to turn around the city of Kampala, you need to give it the resources that it requires. Kampala, capital city, the central business district, if you do the analysis, it's by way the largest point from which URA collects the revenues. But when you see what they actually get back to be able to address the issues that in the city, it's far too little. Too little still, the Lord Mayor has been talking about the mess that is at KCCA, how people have been involved in the grand scheme of stealing resources. He tells you that at one time, they had a meeting with the IGG. The entire IGG institution was at KCCA to understand the issues which were at KCCA. And because they were overwhelmed by the evidence that he had provided in the different, because of the different scandals that are going there that are yet to blow up, some that we don't know, they took a decision that to handle the situation in KCCA, they needed to put in place a unit, a task force. Unfortunately, by the time Kitezi came up, that unit had not been put in place. But for me, that indicates how deep the rot is in Kampala. Even in this situation of Kitezi, it is shocking that there are still some people who want to steal from the taxpayers to take advantage of the crisis through the procurement of of land. Through procurement of land. KCCA procured land in Idundu, where I saw my brother Solomon fighting off, saying that we do not need rubbish here. So they decided that they are going to buy new land in the wake of Kitezi to be able to set up another dump site. Unfortunately, a dump site, something that we should be moving away from. You know, but the process has been flawed. They agreed on what needs to be done. There were even timelines. Then from the recent report by the Lord Mayor, they actually tells us that 22 bidders showed up. By the time the process ended, they had only been left with one particular bidder. The others had been knocked out. But this person, the land this person is offering is in Idundu, same area where the Serwajas are saying no rubbish. Then it does not meet the specification in terms of the kilometers, where the distance from Kampala. Then on top of that, an acre is at 250 million. Solomon, you come from those areas. Has an acre reached that level? Okay. Now you can imagine there is somebody who's already setting out.
How many acres is it?
Some 200 acres. There is already somebody who is planning
200 acres in a single block.
In a single block,
okay.
And they are selling it at 250 million per acre. You get it? So you see, there is somebody already who is planning to steal from us, even in light of a crisis. So for me, it's a big issue in KCCA that needs to be confronted with. Now, I had my brother talk about the unfortunate situation that Chisaka found herself in. And for me, it goes back to the manner in which the people who are leading the city are supposed to be arrived at. Because from my thinking, from my understanding, from the strategic plan of KCCA, when you look at it, you see the things that they want to do. KCCA is supposed to be run as a corporate entity. So if you're going to run a corporate entity, I think people who are appointed in such spaces should be arrived at in a process that shows some level of merit. And I'm thinking this needs to be opened up. We have so many people in the private sector
They are opening up this time.
who can provide the leadership. I highly doubt that it will be opened up because at the end of the day, it's the president who gets to decide who should be appointed. So if
I saw the letter said there would be
president
interviews.
if people
Public
apply,
service
if
must
people
conduct
apply, if people apply and they interviewed,
Anderson could be ED soon.
if people apply,
It also will set precedents. We'll also have the chairman of the Electoral Commission subject to
you know,
interviews. But yeah.
if people apply and the names are sent to the president by the Public Service Commission, it's his prerogative to say, I don't need these people. I think this one will do better. But even if there are 10 names, they will do so in a situation where he gets the chance to actually single out who should actually be the person. And I think we should have a system where people are appointed on merit. But that said, we will still have a situation of the politics at KCCA and management. And this goes to the aspect of governance. I think it's high time for the central government, for the sake of the city of Kampala, to accept the fact that politically they are not in charge of the city. That the people of Kampala took a decision to vote for the opposition and chose Erias Lukwago, despite all the issues they have talked about, to be the Lord Mayor. The KCCA Act clearly stipulates what the Lord Mayor and the council is supposed to be done. And for me, during the work of all this debate, there have been people who have been saying, oh, what has Lukwago done for us? For me, I think the man has done his work. He has shouted, he has spoken, pointed out the gaps. He has done what the political leadership is supposed to do. Now, what do you do when the political leader is talking about all these issues, and at the back of your mind you need to transform the city? You reflect on the issues he's talking about. Try to find out whether there is salt in it, and then act on it. But a situation where we have the man saying this, and then because he's the opposition, you think he should be frustrated by doing this, you create a situation where there is some level of a fight between the management and the political class. The political leaders call the management to council to explain issues. The management does not want to appear. You know, it completely creates a situation that is so funny. The fact of the matter is, politically, as long as the law is what it is today, Erias Lukwago is the political leader of Kampala. The government should accept that. From my understanding, from my interaction with Erias Lukwago, for him, I think he has understood clearly that the central government has the duty to appoint the management. But he actually says, let each side adhere to the law, and there will be no challenges. So why should we continue with that tug of war?
Isn't there a fundamental problem here? Because when we amended the KCCA Act, we wanted, at the core of that amendment was to improve service delivery in the city, at least for the record. Maybe it was to tear down the political...
May I?
Because this is where I was coming from.
That's what we
Mr. Chibazo.
Actually, all of you are getting it completely
There was a question
wrong.
of consolidation of power and where it should lie.
This is what
Yes,
happened.
That's the
This is
grand
how we
scheme of things.
ended up with the KCCA Act. During the negotiations between Mengo and the central government for what was supposed to be the regional tier, there was a scaling off of Kampala because they were supposed to create a Mengo municipality. And then they said Kampala, this particular Kampala, would fall within the central government, to be managed different, to be fall totally within the... Now, the negotiations fell through. But the government opportunistically looked at it as an opportunity to capture Kampala. And they said, okay, now Kampala goes to the president's office as.
Yes.
The government was not that smart. At the eve when they brought the law, one, the mayor wasn't supposed to be elected, he was supposed to be elected by the councillors, all those things. When they brought the law to parliament, Erias Lukwago, the smart guy, as member of parliament for Kampala Central, singly,
and shadow attorney general at
yes,
that time.
singly pushed government to have Kampala elect its Lord Mayor, to amend sections of that law that they had brought through to reflect a democratic dispensation. And because members of parliament in parliament at the time, A, don't read, B, did not care about what happens with this, wanted it out of the way. It wasn't important for most of them. So Erias had his way. The law was signed into law. The president and his team, in their mindset, still had a Lord Mayor that didn't exist, that didn't have anything, that didn't call any shots that they wanted in the original document. The document that they passed had created two power centers. A, the political head of KCC, who is Erias Lukwago. But they had also given a lot of power to the ED, that was now the technical head. And that is conflict. And I have heard Solomon here say that, oh, at least Jennifer, she did. And I've had that crap all over Kampala, that people are saying that actually Jennifer did. Jennifer had a lot of bravado. She had a lot of PR. When you do an audit of this city, I want you to tell me that Jennifer did 5 new roads in this city with the budget she had. I want you to take me to say, okay, in concrete terms, this is what we had out of the 8, were they 6 years of Jennifer? Or thereabouts? Nothing. She had a beautiful PR machine. She did PR, she did a carnival, okay. Did she plant 100 trees in the city, trees around the city? Sebana Kizito, at least on Wakariga Road, you can say, from Mengo to Wakariga, Sebana Kizito left an avenue. These ones cut Acacia Avenue. All the trees were cut down. Sebana Kizito planted the green trees. You see the green trees we have around Kampala that are cut in a circular way? Sebana ordered the botanical officer in Kampala. They said, oh, they will dig up the roads. He says, go and die. I'll plant them until you find the alternate.
And you know, also one of the reasons why some people would say that Jennifer did something, there are certain parts of this city where some new roads came up, but there was an opportunity of funding from the World Bank. The money was there. We took a loan.
Anderson, I'll even spoil that. I'll spoil that.
Took a loan.
Those roads, some of them were done in Kawempe. They were negotiated when Sebagala was exiting. Sebagala personally decided that he needed roads in Tula Road, Kawempe, Kawempe. And do you know why? He wanted to bolster his brother. So when he was getting the World Bank funding, he picked roads that would bolster Latif as a brother. And he did the Kawempe. Sebana did roads in Machindi. Machindi was one of the biggest beneficiaries of that road scheme. Not Sebana, Sebagala. He signed them off. Fortunately for Jennifer, they came to life when Jennifer was in office.
Yeah.
Same as the GKMA that is now rolling out. It was negotiated before. Yes, it was negotiated before and came through. Kampala's problem, one, political. It is at a governance level. Until, like Anderson says, we wake up and accept the people of Kampala have a vote. What is unique about Kampala? Why should Wachiso have a district service commission and Kampala doesn't? Kampala goes to the public service commission. Why should the council of Wakiso discuss a budget, pass it, know what is there, and Kampala doesn't? I asked Erias Lukwago, the Lord Mayor of Kampala, but Lord Mayor, shouldn't you be discussing this at budget level? He told me, Peter, lately, even with the program-based budgeting, we hear of things after they've passed. So what is the role of the council? If government really feels they don't need the authority in Kampala or what they call the council, let them swallow the bullet and say, heck, get out of here.
Let them go and amend the law.
You can't pretend to want your cake and have all that egg. to want your cake and have it. You want to appear democratic and at the same time present a different thing. No. All these things, I mean, Dorothy and Louis Mbazi and their team are victims of the governance problem. I've told you, right now, the ED is supervised by the Minister of Kampala. They are also officially, legally, officially supervised by the head of service, where you fill your appraisals and go. Then, what is the role of the mayor and his council? Can they call you to book? Can they ask questions? Maybe not, maybe yes. Dorothy's guilt, number one, is still that her, unlike Jennifer, did not put up bravado. Jennifer launched a fountain seated on a sewage pipe here at Watoto Church, in front of Watoto Church. And her technical people said, wait a minute, there is a sewer down there. We can't have this kind of thing here. But money had been spent. Money had been spent. They woke up one day and rolled out planting trees in tires along the city. And then they were told, this looks shabby. They had planted the trees, money had been spent. They were accounting to no one. If that is what we want, we can have it. We can have it. The one of the names that have been rumored to be possible EDs is a pipped soldier. The feeling is that soldier will come with the same aura. But that is not what Kampala is looking for. Kampala needs people to sit in a room and say, what is the strategic plan of Kampala? Where are we going? Kampala currently is one of the most corrupt places in these local governments because people gave up.
Actually, the Lord Mayor says
even the
they
minister
are number two. They are number two in terms of corruption.
That's in regards to the IGG report.
According to the IGG, they are number two. So for me, just to cap it all.
Have you had a chance to present a building plan to the city?
No, I haven't.
Well, a lot of people build in Wakiso because you cannot present a building plan to the city, the physical planning and blah, blah, blah. It's a trophy machine. You go there, you must have a certain amount of money. It's as bad as, once I talked to one of the directors, my friend, I said, you know what? I need this plan passed. I've taken it to so-and-so. I said, how much have they asked you? I named the figure. Says, in my language, and I'm talking to a director in the city, and I'm saying, so what? Says, just give them the money and have the plan approved.
And it's okay.
That's how bad it's gotten.
And they may not even come to the site. They may not come to the site to
They've given up on it.
The building to see whether you're actually sticking to the plan.
No, they approve the plan.
They approve the plan, but they will never come to ensure that you're sticking to the plan. So for me, generally, Kampala is just a mirror of the misgovernance that we have. You know, failure to follow due process, failure to have institutions that are working, and you know, the idea of having individuals supreme than institutions. You know, you just don't understand. I mean, just look at the way Kampala is governed. You're talking about a minister, actually two ministers. You have a full cabinet minister, you have a state minister. You know, sometimes you just want to understand
to each other.
What
the state minister believes he's the one in charge.
Yes, you get it.
Anderson,
can you imagine a city, the way we are? And you know, just this week as these people got sacked, I got a phone call from one of the people who used to work in KCCA, but he actually left. And I want to agree with the initial submission of Solomon that President Museveni knew about the Kitezi incident. You know, this person told me that they had sat down, they had agreed with the World Bank, and the funding was ready. They were moving forward, and there were plans to actually begin moving from solid waste to electricity. Then a call came from State House, and they said, no, don't proceed with that investor. I have an investor that I'm bringing. And that's where the thing ended.
Had government by then guaranteed the
money was going to come from the World Bank. You know, the money was going to come from the World Bank. When you have a city like Kampala, I think there needs to be a situation where there is some sort of semi-autonomy where they should be allowed, for instance, to take a loan and do what they are supposed to do without this so much supervision and confusion that
they actually
Chivazo talks about.
By the law, they
you get it. By the law, they are semi-autonomous.
By the law, they are actually allowed to even negotiate those grants and negotiate those loans, provided they get the thumbs up of Ministry of Finance and the Solicitor General and Attorney General. Yes, they are allowed.
So I think we just need to look in the mirror and say that
but
our governance.
Shall I say, also the whole of this thing of turning Chitezi into electricity, because we have so taken our minds into the private, quote unquote, private sector led, as it were, we are getting it wrong. Let anyone tell you in the world where that happens without a direct subsidy of the government. Because turning garbage into electricity is not about selling electricity. It is an expensive venture, very expensive venture. So those that do it are not profitable in the way they do. But governments subsidize it because of the value it adds on their environment, their city. And so it's about governments investing in it. Whoever will come here, it will not make business sense to turn the garbage in Chitezi into electricity. That is why they will sell it very expensively. They've asked for 0.8 of a dollar, 8 cents of a dollar. They've asked for 10, they've asked for 11. But this government, you've had areas, Lukwago, will tell you they are buying from the guys of Skoll at 8. They are buying from your neighbor. Yes, they are buying from
Kachira. They are buying from thermal generators.
Yes, he's NBS's neighbor here. At 11 cents. Boy. And those guys are
in an era where you are telling us that we have too much electricity.
So tell me, why wouldn't you invest in Chitezi as an environmental investment by government? It shouldn't even be on Kampala. It should not be on poor Chisaka and Lukwago and Luyimbazi, whatever you think about him. It should be on the executive. Someone at the Entebbe should be taking the bullet for this.
And this is why I agree with him. Just my final submission. I know that we're going for a break. But the fact, and I agree with you, what if, and maybe we can start discussing about solutions and way forward. We've talked about the context, we've talked about the challenges, we're now giving way forward. What if we managed waste management like the way we manage electricity, like the way we manage national water, that we pay, the public gets the service, but at a minimal cost.
We actually pay.
We actually pay.
We actually pay.
So I'm
the people
saying,
that pick garbage from my house are paying.
Pay. So what if we came up with a national garbage waste management corporation? Something like that. I'm just saying that you have National Water and Sewerage Corporation that is able to get loans, that is able to invest, that is able to supply water to the entire country, and the people pay. We have electricity, we get people, we pay for the service. What if we also started managing waste that same way? That's government in itself, like you said, invests into it. We invest into waste management and we pay, and this money is paid in a certain way to keep the waste management corporation working.
And Solomon, we are talking about Kampala.
No.
How many of you have looked at Jinja? Have you looked at
How
Mbale?
about the new cities?
Have you looked at Mbale?
Are they sustainable?
Have you looked?
Until
Entebbe, until Rulinda woke up and said, don't dump in Entebbe. I didn't know they had a dump site. But boy, it's catastrophe. It is worse than Chitezi. They are dumping into a swamp, and it is draining the leachate straight into the swamp and to the lake. And I'm saying, boy, we are in trouble. The Monitor, and I want to credit whoever is crafting the front page of the Monitor lately, my salutes. The Monitor just gave us the dread of this country, garbage. I mean, every city, where are they dumping? How are they dumping? So are we waiting for a Chitezi in Gulu? Are we waiting for one in Lira? Are we waiting for one in Barara?
Which is why my proposal would work. Have a national waste management corporation.
How many Kisakas will we fire?
What is next for those that have been appointed in the offices, finding the same
The other
challenges?
Kisakas, please resign. You're going to be fired.
Let's take a break. We'll return with what could be the way out for those appointed and the statements by Jerome Host Kainerugaba. You're still watching the Media Roundtable here with key journalists looking into the political events happening in the city, what has been shaping up and why events happen the same way they keep happening and just another page unfolding one after another, but reading from seemingly the same kind of script. We have new leadership in Kampala, and I want us to close this off. The same challenges still exist. Maybe the Kitezi one has gone with a group. There's a lot more to unfold. I want to understand from you first, Solomon, what could make or even break the new leadership, if at all it is confirmed?
If everything remains the same, these guys are going to have the same problem and they will not deliver. I think what my colleagues are suggesting, Mr. Chibazo looked at a total overhaul. I don't know if that is possible. A total overhaul at City Hall to make things happen. Same, just putting, it's the same script, different cast. So even the new leadership will have the same challenges. I think it's important that we address the core challenges happening at KCCA, and the gentlemen here have well laid them out. Do we have the political will to address these challenges? Because it's one thing knowing the challenges that you have as a country. It's also another thing knowing, okay, how can we get out of this crisis? Can we actually pay attention to this, allocate resources, if there's need to amend the law to make things happen? But if you're still operating, or if you're still leading an organization like this, and you're just changing the head, but the entire system remains the same, you're going to deliver the same results. So if it needs to overhaul the entire City Hall, I don't know how, to change things, maybe that should be President Museveni's agenda. Otherwise, if it's just appoint a Lukwago, appoint a Chibazo, and the entire system is like that, people can, let me tell you, you can be curtailed. Like, if there are mafias at City Hall, for you to dislodge those mafias that have established themselves in the different departments. I mean, you told us about the director saying Bakusabye Sente Maker. You can imagine that the mafias and cartels have the system in their hands. So even with this new leadership, the question is, are you able to dismantle that cartel or the mafias running City Hall for you to make the changes that you want to make to deliver better services for the city? That is a big question that I think this new leadership will answer.
Peter, what is the uphill task for Rusa and those newly appointed amidst the same challenges that happen in the city, the question of governance in the city that has left many of them without not much to do but to exist within the jobs?
I'll go to football. I am a football fan. 2 jobs you don't want to take in global football. One is the manager of England. The English have so much expectations of their team, even when maybe the talent isn't matched. So when you take the job, you pack your bags immediately. That the sack is coming. Because you're taking a job for which you know for sure you're going to be sacked. We have a club also here in Uganda. When you're hired, because they are my competition, I won't say their name, but of course I know that people watching will know. They are on Entebbe Road. They're a small club that looks like, wants to be like KCCA. Yes, but you get that job, you know the gun is on your head. Frank, the gun has been cocked. The finger is massaging the trigger.
Already.
It is. But one, if I were him, I would pray that the 3 months go very fast so that the incumbent comes and I go back into my quiet. If I were him, there you're likely to survive a full term and go on with it. But beyond that, one, Frank is not new at KCCA. He's been the director of
Legal Affairs.
And he's in charge of enforcement. And I need to say this, I've had an opportunity to sit in the same meeting with him for different business. He sounds a very decent gentleman, a very composed one, but maybe a Kisaka of some form, very organized, very meticulous, and he's going into a space that needs politics, that where you need to play real politics. Will he manage? I don't know. And I'll give you a little example. Those of you that work and live around this city, you've seen the KCCA pickups with enforcement officers that are nondescript, if you know them. Anderson, where you work, you must see them go up and down. They are dressed in T-shirts. They are muscle men, really, dressed in T-shirts. They do not work for KCCA. Who do they work for? How come they travel on KCCA pickups? Who are they? Who has deployed them? Most of these were thugs in Kisenyi. They were in the gyms of Kampala. Do you remember Zebra? They are people that were drawn from those boxer gyms. Why? Because they seemed to be gravitating towards Kamwocha. Most of those youth with a lot of energy, unemployed, were gravitating towards Kamwocha. So you needed to engage them and find them something to do. So they are loaded on KCCA pickups. When they pick up someone, they hold you by the hand, they'll jolt you in any way, and they are deployed. Rusa is responsible for the enforcement of Kampala. Once, someone raised in a meeting to him and said, but you see the image of Kampala with this. And the poor man said, I agree with you. Those guys ruin our image completely. Then I saw how helpless he was. You're responsible for the enforcement.
But you can't tame a group.
You don't know them. You don't know how they are there.
I saw him yesterday in his acceptance speech saying that, you know, I'm also in charge of enforcement. I'm not going to accept this brutality that you've been taking.
He's not in charge of it.
You've been in charge of it.
And he's not. He's not. Poor guy, he's not. That's how bad the place he is in is. So you're going to have a dual personality. You're going to have a decent gentleman that would want things to work, that is scripted on the law, but you also have a job to do. And this is a political space. You're going to deploy people that you don't know. And poor guy, I don't envy him. I don't envy him. If I were him, I would be praying the 3 months come and go. But if he actually takes the job, he needs to have, unfortunately, there are two things that you can have at KCCA and do the work. You can make the systems work. You can make the systems work.
You have to work very hard.
Yes, you would have to have the trust of Plot One and Samizi to allow you to make the systems work. Without people, without systems, sometimes people are not innately bad. They take advantage of systems. If they realize that you're not going to take crap, they will fall in line. If you make systems work, obey the law, you will have it work right. That is a tough call. The second one is proprietary ownership. You go and bow to the mzee and say, I am yours, I am, and you have his ear. Because part of Kampala's biggest problem is funding. Not part. The ultimate biggest problem of Kampala is funding. For as long as you get a third of your budgets. I've been looking at Kampala's policy statements here. And since 2015, they've got a third, or sometimes slightly lower, of their dream. The budget they put together, they get about a third of that. Now, even when you're a magic worker, with that third, the most you can do is entertain a few people in Kampala, paint a few streets, clean a few here and there, but you won't get the work done with that kind of budget. So can he lobby and have a better budget? He would be a superstar. I don't know. Unfortunately, our economy is doing very poorly. I don't see Matia Kasaija and Ramadan give you an extra penny.
Anderson, how does Rusa and the team survive sinking in the dirt at KCCA?
Well, he has a lot to do. I don't know if he will take the job. I had the minister telling him that she wants to see progress in his first 100 days. You know, people like those first 100 days, you know.
But Anderson, let me ask you, is the minister in charge?
I don't think the minister is in charge also.
Do you know that she had actually made a recommended appointment?
The minister is not in charge.
She had an appointment for the ED job. She had recommended the head of the director, human resource, to be the incoming ED. And poor woman, end of day, she receives a letter.
With completely new, different names. And that's what we...
Hajat is my friend.
And you look at even who has been steering the process, chairing the meetings about Kampala and all these decisions. It has been First Deputy Prime Minister, Rebecca Kadaga. While you would think that Kampala, which has 2 ministers, this is an issue that would be sorted out in the President's office, so she has not been in charge. You see, Rusa has inherited the challenges, all these challenges in Kampala. And unfortunately, like Mr. Chibazo has said, I don't see him doing any better because he needs funding and he needs the goodwill of President Museveni to actually make things work. And for me, I think if they worked on the city, it would become much easier for them to convince the ordinary voter that please, this and this has happened.
If you work on the city areas, Lukwago runs for president. I've done super here.
No, but...
So it's just an intended frustration.
So, I don't know.
So they should have that will to develop the city. They should have that will to develop the city. But fast forward, there's a project which was launched recently by President Yoweri Museveni of upgrading the infrastructure in Kampala. I think
the World Bank project.
The World Bank funding. The money is
Greater
there,
Kampala
it's coming. I think that's the first critical point that Rusa is going to be tested.
But it's been ongoing. It's rolling, actually.
It's rolling. How that project finally delivers over the next few days will be very critical. But for me, I think he has inherited the same problems. You see, he has been the one in charge of enforcement, and he's already saying he will not accept
what has been happening.
What has been happening. It has happening.
Actually, he genuinely believes that we shouldn't be that brutal.
So he generally believes, but the system that is working in seems not to support that idea. So I think we are just going to see the same situation.
But Mr. Mkwabile,
yeah.
Just one question, and this will be all for me on this KCCA thing. President Yoweri Museveni is the finance minister of this country.
Uganda. Yes.
President Museveni has traveled globally and looked at... He's also the minister of Kampala. President Museveni has traveled globally and seen some of these best cities across Africa. He's the biggest right now
consumer of intelligence.
I mean, he listens to what people are talking about Kigali. Paul Kagame was with him recently. Goes to Kigali, turns things around a bit, makes things work. Whilst, yes, the economy of Rwanda is still low, but you can see some level of improvement. I've had an opportunity of visiting. President Museveni has been to cities across the world. He's visited many of these. And I've been asking myself...
Or are you asking him?
You see, I don't know how I can put it better, but doesn't he admire what he sees? I felt like when he sees all these things and he comes back home, then you get to have a feeling, you're like, you know what? As the Minister for Finance, I am now deliberately going to make it my personal duty to make sure that the sitting room of my house is sorted. We fix the potholes, we fix the trade order, we fix garbage collection, we fix these messes, at least for the capital city, which is the face of the organization.
I'll ask who? Rusa. For me, mine. I'm crying for green spaces in Kampala. At least, Frank, in the 3 months, do us a green space.
Which one?
Where if we are stressed,
where is
even
the
if on
land?
the
Which land are you
even if
going
on
to
the barriers of the street,
And
where
you
if you're
asking for
stressed,
too much
you
for
can
him to
have a
deal with?
bench where you sit and a shed and say thank you. At least those little ones. If you do 50 benches, I'll be one of your campaigners.
In my view, and as I conclude, I think that the president needs to be deliberate about improving the infrastructure in Kampala.
Thank you. Thank you.
There's
Thank
a
you,
question.
Solomon.
There's a question you asked earlier, whether he didn't know about Chitez, and I want to ask you again. You think he does not know that Kampala deserves better infrastructure?
Thank you very much, gentlemen. Quite interesting for me is whatever you point to goes back to the will to develop Kampala,
for me,
to how to deal with
For me,
Kampala.
I've come to a conclusion that the president we see speaking on the podium is not the president that is governing the country.
Okay.
That's my conclusion.
That's for another discussion. Thank you very much. It's quite interesting, but maybe we'll have to still watch and see the same events unfold another day. Maybe this time round it
I
will
hope
be.
not another Chitezi. I lost a colleague at work in Chitezi. Every time I see those pictures running, I feel traumatized. I was there when that tractor dug up the poor woman. And yes, I was there with Segona and Arias Lukwago when they dug up the poor woman, and I saw her in the rubble. And the body, we carried the body out, and it's dreadful.
Gentlemen, let's leave that.
For me, it rings home.
There's another danger that is coming. If you looked at the Observer newspaper, their front page, the manholes, the open manholes.
Thank you very much. It's one that we cannot go away from for the fact that many of us are aware of what happens in Kampala and privy to the issues and how they keep happening, how the negligence of those that are said to be negligent should not just be held liable to just them, not even their supervisors. It remains a bigger question on why it just has to be those that are technical in nature, and even those that don't hold the political will don't find it very important to deal with. We take a break, we'll return shortly. You're still watching NBS Media Roundtable, and we are looking into the critical issues. Now it's about time we look at what the statements of the general who has chosen, many say he has chosen to be more politically alive on the scene, have come to look like. And that's General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, who has come out to say in tweets that came out across the weekend until Saturday, he came out to say Uganda, one, will not have leadership that is civilian in nature after his father, who is President Yoweri Museveni, who is also a general who went to the bush and fought for the country and liberated the country, as has been said many times. But also he continues to endorse his father for the National Resistance Movement candidature, and also again asks the Patriotic League of Uganda, his group, a team that he pretends over, said to be a civil society organization, but unclear on what actually they do away from the politics of the day, how they have to now find a home in the National Resistance Movement, which they have termed as a reactionary party, fond of corruption and so many other things from within. I want to understand from the gentleman what exactly you see of the statements of General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, and whether they should raise the kind of dust that they raised from those that understand the law, the Honorable Segonas and the rest, those that raise questions of how actually this could draw Uganda again to a military rule. I want to know what you pick of these statements. Let me start with you, Anderson. What do you read out of this?
Well, as a firm believer in constitutionalism and rule of law, I've tried my best to avoid discussing that man called Muhoozi, because I strongly believe he shouldn't be on the political terrain, because as a serving military general, he should be silently doing his work in the army. But unfortunately, the system that bears allowed him to make all this manner of statements. But for me, from the start, I always believed that he was not going to be on the ballot, because as long as his father is still alive and can still talk, can still move, he still wants to be president. And that explains why our constitution has been amended to create that free fall system where he can be president as long as he wants. That is one. Then secondly, I think as time goes on, systems wear out. And I think what they did was a political maneuver to try and read the temperature within the NRM political party. And what better way than to put in place parallel structures to prepare for the 2026 general elections. It gives you an opportunity to thoroughly check who is with you and who is not. So you've been seeing people with a divided allegiance, not knowing what is going on, confusion. You see a minister who is serving under President Yoweri Museveni is announced the other side as the coordinator of PLAU. And you ask yourself, PLAU, is it a political party or what? And quietly, they are also saying, I don't know what's going on. But they are being announced the other side as a coordinator of a certain system. But also, in the grand scheme of things, some people, political analysts, have actually suggested that it was an attempt to actually run down the pressure that the National Unity Platform leader had created, the traction he has created with the young people. And so you throw in General Muhoozi Kainerugaba, supported by who is this man who suddenly became a minister? What is his name?
The Minister for Children and Youth.
You know, to try and mobilize the youth across here and there, you know, organize them into these groups and then create some semblance of units that will suddenly arise to, sort of match the activities of the National Unity Platform Party. And I think that's what is happening. And I'm just wondering, if it was another military general making all these kind of statements, do you know what could have happened to them? Yes. General Tumukunde merely appeared on Spectrum at Radio 1, expressed his views about what was going on. CBS. He went to CBS, went somewhere, and he was court-martialed. You get it? But now we have the topmost leader of the army making... David and all these people, historicals,
trouble.
People you would call comrades, people who fought hand in hand with Museveni in the bush. They were all, subjected to the law because of the statements they made. But now we have Muhoozi making all these statements, suggesting that Uganda will only be ruled by the army,
either policeman or the military,
either the military or kind of things. That's joking. You know, this country belongs to Ugandans, and they should be allowed to have the right to decide who should actually govern them. There should be competition, and that's one of the biggest problems that we have. You know, a certain class of people thinking they can lock out others, you know, killing the opportunities of so many other Ugandans who could manage this country even much better. I mean, if President Yoweri Museveni had left, had respected the presidential term limits, now we wouldn't even be having this kind of discussion, or we wouldn't be having this kind of mess. Because leadership is like construction of a house. You move it step by step. You cannot be the master of all the parts of the house. There's somebody who is better in doing the foundation. You'll have to find somebody who is good at plastering and the one who can do classic roofing. You know, that's how leadership should be. Everybody wants to leave behind a legacy. And through that, people transform communities, you know. But if we have a situation where somebody is saying that, look, it has to be an army man, it has to be a policeman, I think we should just ignore those statements and continue with the zeal and the plans within the political parties to actually provide good leadership to this country. So for me, I think, like so many people have said, if he had any chance, probably it would be now, when his father would have granted it to him and said, okay, by virtue of the authority that is me, you can become maybe vice president, and then I retire, you become president, or things like that. But I think it's gone.
Kenneth, you started with a statement and said, as someone who believes in constitutionalism, you would not want to discuss this. Does it make you feel like you're aiding somebody to commit a crime, to keep him in a discussion of the military and politics? Why?
Aiding and abetting.
Aiding and abetting, or conspiracy, to overthrow the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda, maybe. You know, the law is clear, and let's not take it that we do not want Muhoozi to be politically active or what. If he so wishes, he has to resign from the army. That's what the law says. You can't be you can't be a serving army officer and then you're in the marquis of politics, engaging. The Constitution clearly tells us who should do what. It allows him to exercise his right as an ordinary Ugandan to aspire for the position of president, but only if he leaves the military. Maybe if he has retired or he has resigned, let him do that and then get into the political terrain, and then we will discuss him thoroughly and what he stands to offer to the country.
Thank you very much, Solomon. I want to pick from you and pick from the view of one's expression of interest in different things. Pick from the rights that Muhoozi enjoys. Pick from the birthdays, the declarations, and how the law has been unleashed onto the others that have been here and engaged politically. Why, in your mind, do you think General Muhoozi still enjoys sort of what one would think probably not inherited, but I don't know which other word you would use in regards.
So firstly, for me, I don't take Muhoozi's statements lightly. And this is why. Because he understands where power is. Firstly, he has a President Yoweri Museveni, who is the commander-in-chief. He was the chief guerrilla general who has fought. The first in command is President Yoweri Museveni. The second in command is General Salim Saleh.
In which command?
I'm telling you, you have the official dome of the constitution that Lukwago is talking about, the president, the vice president, you know, the judiciary and all that. But let's face it here. Before ministers are appointed, people are going to Gulu. We know what happened. When everyone is driving to Saleh, everyone, we are seeing...
Didn't you see that tweet where Muhoozi said that if his father is Jesus, then his uncle, Saleh, is Simon Peter, who has the keys to heaven?
So, the second in command...
You know, everyone is struggling to go to heaven, and you know the man was the key to heaven.
The second in command is General Saleh. The third in command right now is Muhoozi Kainerugaba.
Where is Mama?
Mama may be for... Maybe Mama is... Maybe we might have missed Mama. Maybe Mama is what? Let's say...
I'm not part of that conversation.
When it comes to Mama, Peter keeps quiet. But anyway, so we have the formal structure of the president, the vice president, the prime minister, and we have all these other people. You know, the Speaker of Parliament.
The protocol as is.
Protocol. When you lift off that veil, let's look at the power structure. You have President Yoweri Museveni, you have General Salim Saleh. Even in the army, the way the army works, you have Muhoozi Kainerugaba. And then you have, people have understood where the power structure is, have mastered the art of playing around with President Museveni. Don't think that Anita Among is very crazy to go and build a hospital and name the wards, Yoweri Kaguta wards, then Charlotte ward, Baby's ward, you have Muhoozi Kainerugaba ward. It is deliberate. Even at the time when all of us were demanding for accountability and pushing back against corruption in Parliament.
But Anita
Among invited President Museveni.
Solomon, Anita has been a master of that art.
No, yeah, but that's what I'm saying.
When she was part of the FDC, I think towards 2011 elections, she had a baby. And you know the baby's name? Do you remember what the baby was named? Kiza Besigye. Girl is smart.
So she's smart. She understands even when you're pushing back against corruption, she knows where the power is. The power is in the first family, the power is in the army. Muhoozi Kainerugaba has grown up seeing that. This is why ministers go to Gulu to see General Salim Saleh, who for now is the top boss at Operation Wealth Creation.
That is the army.
Think about that.
That's the army.
Even the army. Even the ministers go to Gulu, sir.
Salim Saleh is the army.
To do what? What do they go to
Well,
do?
that's the thing. So if you are to understand the power structures, Muhoozi is coming from somewhere. When he says, you know, no one, arrogantly, no one will rule this country except if they are either in the military or in the... That's what they know. And that's what Uganda history has been. We know it has been soldiers who have been in charge of this country. Do we want that to continue? No, we don't want. And it will take a big struggle for us to take back power to the people, and that the ballot should go beyond the gun or the people who are in charge of power. But let me speak about the PLU and all that, what happened of Muhoozi saying that please support the NRM. I think for me, Muhoozi has understood that the alpha and omega in this country is Museveni. And he can mean to actually tell
And
you
he
in
did
pieces.
not know.
Has he understood?
I mean,
Does he know?
You see, when you have a son who says NRM is a bunch of corrupt people, NRM belongs to Museveni. Museveni, if there's something that is very close to Museveni's heart, is the NRM.
No.
Which is why when he comes up, let me say this, you can disagree and it's okay. But when he comes out to say, the NRM government has done this, the NRM government, for us in the NRM, you'd closely say that he's in...
President Museveni, when he's campaigning, he runs as an opposition candidate against the NRM. What he owns is the NRA. If he could, he would only own the NRA.
That's why you see...
The NRM is opposition to him.
When the temp has come out, he tells you the original NRA.
Okay, but at least for now, I would love to suggest
the
that
original
the
NRM.
NRM is very dear to me.
It's a vehicle.
When you see the son trying to dismiss NRM, which
the vehicle may be useless now.
You have touched on Museveni's nerve. Museveni may not publicly come out to condemn what Muhoozi Kainerugaba is doing, but behind closed doors, he's very angry and he's very furious about this man Muhoozi. And perhaps, in my view, that is why he says, you know what, let me clip this boy's wings, put him in the army.
I'd like a promotion like that to be clipped.
Yeah, clip his wings, put him in the army, silence him a bit. I mean, you're in charge of the army, think about the army, be busy on the desk work, you don't have time to mobilize, get his PLU people, put them into cabinet, even if it means Museveni to go as low as appointing people who have never even been to public administration schools to become ministers. He will do that, but he's doing that to actually dislodge PLU. So Muhoozi has understood that the father was not happy with him. Let me give my context. The father was not happy with him. The father has brought up the Rabogo question. You have the Muhoozi question, you have the Rabogo question. You know, the family affair is divided. In PLU, you don't see anyone supporting in the PLU movement. You didn't see the first family there. You know, you'd never see the Natashas and all these other people in the PLU power structures. You would see the Gashumba. You would see Gashumba, you would see Kabanda, you would see, Solomon, you know, these Balams.
Solomon, if you can allow me to interject, that's exactly what they want you to see. That's exactly what they want you to see. They want to create this impression that even internally they have opposition within. That's what you believe. That's what you believe. You start second guessing. Who is better? Is it the son-in-law? Is it Muhoozi the son? Is it so and so? Why is this happening? And as day follows night, time keeps on moving. The things that you're supposed to focus on are being overtaken by time and events as you focus on the grand scheme. As for them, they focus on the grand scheme of actually continuing in power. Let me tell you, as long as Mr. Museveni is still alive, breathing and walking, he will be president. And nobody will touch him.
But you see, I was trying to construct my thoughts around the whole Muhoozi ideology of saying, okay, my PLU people, turn all your attention to the NRM.
And go be part of the reactionary
go be part
group.
of it, go be part of
Or
the
go and
NRM.
hang.
But this is a person who previously said the NRM is corrupt, the person who used to say the time for the old guard is done, it's time for us, the young people. He's beginning to realign. And it's coming from somewhere. It's coming from a place of Museveni, the very interesting politician, brings up the balloon of Rabogo, and you have this boy who thought was bigger than life, Muhoozi Kainerugaba. You have Rabogo here, and Museveni giving Rabogo attention. We see them in meetings, we see frequent meetings. Muhoozi then gets to understand, in my view, that look, it is not actually a birthright, that there is actually another person in the picture who is not clear. So what do I have to do now? I just have to fall back into the right path. And I think that explains why Saleh says, welcome back. Are you ready to serve? You had grown wings and you had left, but now you should clap for us that we have even accepted you back into the fold. So for me, my own view is that this decision of Muhoozi Kainerugaba saying PLU should now align with the NRM, he knows very well that the father is still here. You will never even have a go at the seat. You better align and be a good boy before the father, and make sure that the President Museveni comes in 2026 on that Saturday of the declaration. He will be declared the winner of the next election already. And if you can do everything in your power to make sure that that comes through, then you would have actually done very well. Now, the issue of no military person in this country will not be ruled. There will come a time, and it may take a lot of effort, it could even take bloodshed, but there will come a time when the power of the vote will outdo the power of the gun. And I believe that. It may not come now, it may come later, but we are seeing that we're on that path to a place. I know that many people now no longer believe in the elections. Basically, at one point says you never get power in this country through a vote. People have given up. But that time will come where the people's vote will be supreme over the gun.
Thank you, Solomon. We will be here to watch and see what happens
Maybe
at that
I'm overly hopeful.
at that particular time. Peter, I want to understand from you first, coming from the statements of the Attorney General, who said, yes, the Constitution, the UPDF Act could be having different limitations, but General Muhoozi Kainerugaba still enjoys the Bill of Rights. He still enjoys his liberties. He has a right to form an opinion, even as a military soldier. I want to know from you how you received those.
The office of the Attorney General is an interesting place. The late Professor Kiddu Makubuya. Folks that have been to Makerere still believe one...
Chibazo, don't say so much. Just say Muhoozi is the Attorney General.
Folks believe that Kiddu Makubuya was one of the smartest we had at some point at the law school. Poor fellow woke up on a day and gave us an interpretation that Kizza Besigye cannot run for president because while he is innocent, his innocence is not at the level of the rest of us. Therefore, so, I don't doubt that Keke is a very smart
His deputy
lawyer.
made the statement.
Yeah, so if Keke's deputy is making this, because Keke may have avoided coming on that day, so that this gentleman makes the statement. So really, we've had, because if they say the Bill of Rights, when David Tinyefunza, now Sejusa, applied to the courts to be released from the army, he pleaded his rights and said he had a right as a human being to choose whom to work for and when to work. On appeal, He was forced back to the forces because of the unique nature of the forces. And that judgment has not been taken off the books. So why do you believe that with the General Muhoozi it would be different? But who is he? He's the son of his father. My second one is on that statement. And I want to talk to my two brothers here and say, you know that statement that no civilian will rule this country after my father. Not after President Museveni. It's after my father. You know, that my father is rubbed in to sound, this is a family affair. That statement was not meant for Solomon. It was not meant for Anderson. Said no civilian that has not been an officer of the army, and even at least the police. That statement was being thrown at Audrey Rwawogo. Period. Saying you that has not even trained to be an LDU. You that has not at least gone to be a police officer. Forget about our thing.
Not even done Chaka.
I don't know about Chaka. Forget about our thing. And that is dangerous for this country. Because it says you have a fight that is actually in the house. Sometimes I want to believe it isn't exactly the worst of fights for us as a country. The cynic in me. Maybe then we will be sorted out. But President Museveni is here. Like he says, for as long as President Museveni has a bit of wit to come back and run, he will be like the other president that runs a country from France. Do you know him? Do you know the country? He has said now,
his friend.
Please allow me, come and run this time. Don't even put anyone to run against me so that we ease this out and I go. I saw the president, I think yesterday, saying in 20 years, I may be with my God. So you will be in your country. He has also started speaking like the gentleman in France that runs a country in West Africa. He is speaking like that one, saying, I'll be good. So please calm down. Please accommodate me for now.
Don't stress too much over me.
Yes, I'm about to go. I'm about to meet. And he hasn't made the statement once. He has made it like twice now.
He made it the other day at Kololo.
Yes, that he might be about to go and meet his God. Now, the moment he insinuates that, the original general of the NRA previously was indefatigable, unbreakable. You remember when Honorable Mbabazi said that he was devastated after the death of, was it Garang?
It was actually Dr. James Nsababuturo.
When he said that he was devastated, he came and said, them of the resistance, do not get devastated. You must see him like Rambo, like Chuck Norris, film star, superstar. He's never hurt, he will win in this movie. Right now, our movie star has started saying that, but wait a minute, actually I might die. And that creates movements around him. A lot of people start jostling. If you remember Eyadema, I don't know whether he's Nasimbe Eyadema or but the Eyadema, the father, his son wanted to take power. Countries around West Africa just begged him because they pushed the father and said, I'm here. They said, at least allow some democratic process. Allow someone to sit in the interim, and then you come after. But it happened, and it happened around here in Africa. And anyone that thinks that Muhoozi isn't preparing for that, we have all possibilities. We have a possibility of the army taking over, and he's the CDF. We have a possibility of him coming through any other means. We have a possibility of President Museveni appointing him a vice president. All those are possible. And for me, it's, lo and behold, it's all Armageddon. We are on the precipice of collapse completely. This country will become a Somalia. This country is standing on the edge of where Somalia was after Siad Barre, and we have allowed ourselves there, and we will pay the price. And the beauty is no one is a chooser. All of us are going to be in that pot together.
Thank you very much, Peter. Just a minute for each one of you to close. I want to hear from you in a simple, very short statement, anything that you feel like you want to tell the nation that is watching NBS on this very subject matter. I'll start with you, Anderson. What is it that you want to tell?
Well, for me, whatever bothers our country, Uganda, rotates around in the manner in which we are being governed. You know, at the end of the day, it's the politics that dictates the kind of economy we are going to have. It even dictates what you're going to eat on your table, in most cases, because of the policies, because of the way your taxes are being used, you know, and I think one of the critical things, one of the key statements that I've heard from one of the leaders in this country, Major General Greg Mugisha Muntu, is the fact that people who can provide good leadership to this country have chosen to stay away from politics. You get it? And because they have chosen to stay away, they have left politics and governance to people who are not worthy. And that explains the cycle of confusion and misgovernance that we continue to get. And my point would be to encourage those kind of people to actually step forward as we go into these next elections. Offer yourselves. But then also to the ordinary,
Anderson,
to the ordinary Ugandan.
Anderson, where are you running?
To the ordinary Ugandan. To the ordinary
no, we would like to
Ugandan.
encourage him to join the table.
To the ordinary Ugandan. To the ordinary, you know, journalism is a calling. To the ordinary Ugandan. To the ordinary Ugandan. Please get engaged. Understand the value of your vote. Understand the power that you have even to hold the leaders to account. The money that these leaders are spending around, moving around, living expensively, is your money. They are all thriving because you pay taxes or because they are borrowing, quote unquote, on your behalf. Remember, you are going to pay, your children will pay, and your grandchildren will pay. So be engaged, be involved, ask the questions, and then make the right choice when the time for elections comes.
Thank you very much. Peter, what is your last word on the show?
Well, General Mahama...
Peter, where are you running?
Nowhere. Nowhere.
I heard about Nansana municipality.
Nothing. Forget about me and politics. We are not brothers. I'll sit and be the cynic on the table and analyze it and get annoyed with it. But General Muammar al-Gaddafi had sons. He prepared them to take over. One of the most known of them was Said al-Gaddafi. Everyone believed he was the best suited to take over Libya. Do any of you know where Said al-Gaddafi is?
Is he in prison?
Hosni Mubarak had a son. Properly prepared, chiseled for the job, and everyone knew that Mubarak's son was the next president.
Therefore,
where is Hosni Mubarak's son? I don't know. In Zim, when President Mugabe got to the age of uncle, he had his wife. She practically ran the show. And it got to be believed at some point that without Comrade Mugabe, his wife would run the show. Is she? I don't know. Malawi will be my final. When Kamuzu Ngwazi Banda was president of Malawi, he had a wife. I don't remember, Kazamira, I think. She was powerful. Boy, she called the shots. She snapped and the ground vibrated. And she was supposed to run the country after Kamuzu Ngwazi Banda. I don't know whether she did. Good morning.
Thank you very much. Solomon, what is your last word in a few statements?
Firstly, my brother Peter Chibazo scared me that we will get to a place like Somalia.
You were waiting for the...
And we got ourselves here. And that
no, we are responsible.
It's the history that scares.
And all the time, and we made slide there. On my show, they had questions. I usually ask my guests to cast a flashlight into a future of this country. Many of them, like Peter said, predict bloodshed and political turmoil. You know, I once asked General Kulaije whether the UPDF, in case Robert Chagulanyi won the election, that they would salute him as commander-in-chief. And he said, but that's what the Constitution says. He will be our commander-in-chief, and we will salute to him. And I know the cameras were rolling. But my question then is, have we, because we understand where the power centers lie, have we grown a professional army strong enough to carry us through that turbulent time that could slide us back into a bloodshed or a bloodbath? With these statements that are coming from the CDF, there will never be a president who is not a military person or politician, I get more worried that the army that we have hopes in to transition us perhaps to defend our constitution and defend our democracy through that time that we all know is coming, may, if nothing is done, may not stand up to be counted. And I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping that during this time that we have, that the army will be strong enough to carry us through that sensitive time, that this country does not slide into the bloodbath.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, gentlemen. I like the hope that Solomon speaks with. I like the energy you speak with, that hope that
well,
you
I don't know.
With.
I
but
just
maybe
hope so.
Yes, maybe not. It's one that we will live to see. We are here. Maybe God will grant us that life for us to be able to see the transition, to see the different political events and how they'll impact on the country, whether the country will live to be the country that it is today and how it will be at that particular time. That's it for the Media Roundtable. Good morning.